Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Nate on enhancing your vehicle ownership. And today I'm going to be bringing you the long-awaited review video of my 2009 Nissan Murano S. We purchased this SUV just under 6 months ago to use as a work vehicle. And we've put about 5,000 miles on it, and we have used it in a ton of different work situations. We've used it as a commuter, and we've even taken it on a road trip and used it in a bunch of different situations and activities there. So I can safely say that this is going to be a pretty accurate review of the car, of this SUV, how it is as a daily, how it is as a road tripper, and how it is as a work vehicle if you're looking for an SUV to use as one of those as well. Now, if you don't know, we've been doing a bunch of videos on this car. I finally got the AC fixed on this car a couple weeks ago, which is awesome because this last week it was over 100 degrees. This week it's supposed to be even hotter, and it is only June. The summer is going to be a hot one for the record books. So I'm excited for that. We also got the cooling system all updated in this car, as well as a quick tune-up. And if you want to know about what we've done to this car, what's still wrong with the car, jump back onto my channel, check out all of the previous videos of this car, including in that the purpose of why we purchased this. Today I'm going to strictly do a review video of this SUV, why you guys should buy it or why you should not buy it. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into the video. When I do a review video, I always like to start on the exterior of the car. I will apologize briefly that this car is so dirty. It just got done from a week of service out in the field off construction sites and bouncing back and forth for parts. So it's like 90 degrees outside. I'm gonna get it washed tonight. I just haven't done that, so I apologize for that. But overall, I think the styling of the Nissan Murano is subpar. Back in the 2010s, I believe this car came out in like 05. This was really up to date and really modern. It's not my favorite type of styling, but it's not as bad as the Juke or the Quest either. This car has good lines, it has good airflow, it's aerodynamic, and it's somewhat sporty. So in terms of styling, not my favorite, but it's not the worst I've seen. It's definitely one that I like and can live with, and it's definitely all up to personal opinion in that department on this car. The Murano S also comes with the optional roof racks, which if you're gonna buy an SUV, you need the roof racks just for resale value. If you love skiing, then that gives you the option of putting a ski rack up there, which with this SUV you don't need to, because the next thing we're gonna talk about are storage options for the inside. In my opinion, Nissan did an awesome job with the interior of this car. I do really like the styling of the center console here. Now, I do wish that this was a backup camera, not just a clock and a radio. It's not touchscreen or anything like that. It literally is just a clock and radio display. Also, very Nissan style instrument cluster there with the 3 rings and how that gauge cluster is laid out. Nissan's kept that around a long time, so I do wish they had updated that. The way that the lights and stuff come on the cluster was updated based on the previous model, but that does still feel a little bit dated for a Nissan, but it does match their style, and I think that this car looks very good on the inside. Now, for an SUV, it has a ton of storage. So there's your soft open glove box. It's a huge glove box, plenty of storage for everything. Now you have your standard storage pockets down here on the door panels as well. And then this center console is really cool. You have your flip up cup holders that you can hide there, all chromed out. This is just kind of an extra little pocket here. I tuck my phone down into it. You have an aux cable, so that's kind of a good setup. This spot here, however, is really weird. The 12-volt power port or cigarette lighter port is tucked clear down there, which does make it kind of awkward to get in and out, but you do have a nice tray here for your phone or for pencils or pens or whatever. There are a few buttons here, so you do have to be careful what you put down there. And then the actual center console here opens up into something with a large amount of storage, or if you want, you can flip it open to a smaller storage compartment up here, also for pens, pencils, your wallet, or paper, something like that. Overall, as a center console, this is perhaps my most favorite center console that I've ever had in any car that's smaller than a pickup truck. Now, I do like my truck center console a little bit better, but this one is super functional for the size of the vehicle that this is, and it's probably my favorite one out of any car that I've ever owned. Now, having that said too, the dash here is a really large space. There's a groove down in here and a groove down in up there, so you can set stuff on the dash on either side, not worrying about it falling off into your lap or getting into your defroster. Also, the speaker grills are raised up here, so that's a nice feature as well. Functionality of the cockpit of this car is really good, and it has a ton of storage here as well. Now moving into the rear of the car, we find that you have your standard seat back storage options here as well. A large amount of legroom, actually. This is not a cup holder, yet a storage compartment, which apparently I have soda cans in at the moment, so it could double as a cup holder, but you can put some extra things in there. Now, underneath the back seats here, there is not a ton of storage. In fact, it's almost like solid underneath there, so you can't plan on putting anything under there at all. However, these seats do flip down with the pull of this lever, and I'll show you guys why that's important as we move to the back of the car. Now, the back of the car is really pretty spacious. They also provide a cigarette lighter port, so if you're using this car for work, you can run an inverter off of it, or a tool, or a light, or something like that. Now, there's the air duct return, and then you get this handle. Now, this is what I was talking about with these two back seats. They both fold down, and they both have anchor points on them, so this car's so functional. A huge back trunk part, but if you need more space, all you have to do is pull on this handle and these seats fold right down, which is a really neat feature. Now, it's getting caught in the seat belt, but if you go and flip both the seats down completely, you can see how much this opens up the car. There's almost more space in the back of this car than there is in a small pickup truck. So this becomes a really functional space, becomes a great space for camping. You could throw bikes in here, skis, you could throw you know, a mattress and sleep in here. You can, if you're using it like us, throw a ladder in here and a ton of work boxes and work supplies. This is just a really cool SUV in terms of functionality and storage. Now, the only complaint that I have of this car when it comes to storage is the back door here. Now, you can see from the seal how that door falls is kind of at a weird angle. It doesn't close flat, so if you're stacking stuff in here, you can only stack it about as high as the anchor points here on the side, because if you get any higher than those, then when the door comes down, the window will actually hit on those boxes. Again, the car's super dirty right now. So that's kind of my only nitpick and pet peeve, and then I do think some of these come with that thing that you can pull across and lock in here to kind of keep your stuff more secure on a road trip or travel. But in terms of this size here, we've had no problems throwing two large travel suitcases and two carry-ons back here with a ton of backpacks. So there is more than enough space in the back of this car for almost everything that you will be doing. We even made a large Costco run and purchased, I don't know, like 5 cases of water, plus a ton of other groceries, and everything fit back here perfectly. Before we take off on our drive here, let's look at some of the interior features of the 09 Nissan Murano. So you'll see here that we have dual climate control. You just hit that button, passenger can adjust their temperature, you can adjust your temperature. And my screen is dying here, but it shows the temperature here, the mode it's on, and the fan speed, which you can adjust by turning this knob, turn it off by pushing this button. You have your defroster, rear defroster, AC, the auto, which will do whatever it takes to get you at those temperatures that you set, rec air, and then this is your mode. Well, I guess this is your mode, but this helps switch it up higher to the upper vent. This mode just switches through, you know, straight at you on the floor, defrost, that kind of thing. Here to the side is the hazard switch button. Has a very nice blinker tone there as well. European style setup. Controls here, so these are your blinkers, these are your lights here. My car was not spec'd with fog lights nor automatic headlights, so I have to turn this on manually if I want, you know, my parking lights, my headlights, or if I want to turn them off. They will not turn off when you shut the car off, and they will not turn on by themselves when it is dark. So just depends on the Murano that you have. Also, I have to stick the key into the car to use the start to get it to start at all. Some of these cars were spec'd with the proximity key, so all you had to do is have them in your pocket and then of course just hit the button, but mine actually has the slot to stick them in. This Murano does not have heated seats either, so keep that in mind. Some did, some don't. This is like the lowest base trim level. Even my driver's side seat and my passenger side seat are not powered, but you could get them in powered seats. I do have cruise control here on the steering wheel, and then over here are my wipers. I pull them up as a mist, down to set the timer, the velocity, and of course how fast I want them to go, which is backwards, at least from my Audi or what I remember on my European style vehicles. To get it to spray in the front, I pull back on it. To get it to spray on the back window, you push forward on it, and for some reason that back window just runs a stream straight down the window, but I guess it does the job pretty well. Also, here is the rear wiper control you have by twisting this, so you can get that to come on and off at 2 different speeds there. So good little setup on the controls. I do like them. Cruise is a little bit strange to get used to me because my Ford has part of the cruise controls here and here, but I do like them all here better. So kudos to Nissan. I do wish they had done radio controls or something over here, because this chrome and then black weird chrome thing going on just doesn't quite work for me, but you know, I guess it's okay. The radio here is really good. Screen to the radio is up here. Mine is dead and dying, and then there's usually a clock up here. Again, my screen needs fixed or replaced. I got to do that at some point. You get 6 presets to go across here: AM, FM, CD changer, and an auxiliary input. This is a 6 CD changer, so you can have 6 discs in there. You can eject them just like my Ford, load them in just like my Ford, decide which one you want. Perhaps that's why there's only 6 buttons here, not to be, you know, super confusing. To set a preset on a radio, you go to the station you want, and then you just hold one of these buttons in, it'll go to it. Tune, volume, super simple radio. I love them being simple. This helps you, you know, switch the display or the clock, scan, your recall, and then of course this is your seek and your track and your fast forward and rewind. So I do like the radio in this car. I love simple radios, but I do like that they have a screen for it and a bigger screen. I just wish that this was a little bit more modern and this was a touchscreen and a backup camera, but instead it's just a sad 11-year-old dying display. So that's pretty much that with the cockpit of this car. You get your shift knob down here instead of up here, which I actually do really like. The side button here turns your overdrive on and off. Yep, overdrive on and off. I don't know how the overdrive works with the CVT transmission. I've always been a little worried owning a CVT and then going downhill, but we took it down Sylvan Pass in Yellowstone a couple weeks ago, and the car performs amazingly, holds itself back amazingly. There is still a low here and a drive, so I don't understand, you know, completely how the CVT works. I know this one's a 2-speed, but of course you can't ever feel it shift, so just keep that in mind. I wouldn't worry about buying this. for mountain driving. In fact, it works really, really well. Overall, that's pretty much everything in the cockpit. No Bluetooth. Up here, you know, you get your standard lights on and off, on and off. They do include a little map light here and one right there in the back. And then you get lights up there by the grab handles as well. Although not quite like a modern car, you do get this little info screen down here. This is your instant MPG. Now, just by touching this button over here, you can flip to your average MPG, average miles, an hour. Here is the trip time and miles that you can reset. Here is my range currently at my current MPG. The outside temperature, 89 degrees Fahrenheit. And then this is a screen that you can get into to reset the maintenance counters and just change a very few set of basic settings on this car. Again, it's not like a completely modern car, and I don't know why it asks you twice if you want to skip the menu, but that little info screen is nice to have. It's not just, you know, the miles over here and you're done. It does have a trip A and a trip B as well on it, which I do like. And then over here is your brightness, up and down, your dimmer switch, I guess you could call it, as if it were a normal car. And then one last thing is the sound quality in this car. Now, the speakers sound really good. There's 3 of them up front. Then there's some in every door of the car, so everyone in this car can hear whatever's on the radio or being played through the aux port of the CD. Maybe it's an audiobook, you know, super well, even when you're driving. Now, the car is really quiet anyways, but I do think that that's a nice feature so that you don't have to have the volume super loud if you don't want it to be. Now, if you are the user that likes to listen at higher and louder volumes, I do think there's a slight bit of distortion, but it's really not that bad, and it really is not that annoying. The sound comes through pretty crystal clear, but I think it's a little heavy on the high side over the bass side. Now, I'm a guy that loves a lot of bass and heavy bass, so if you don't like bass, I think that this car is, you know, a really good option for you on the stock speaker setup. But if you're someone that does love bass, you're probably going to want to put a subwoofer in the car at some point, but there's so much room and plenty of room in here to do that. I wouldn't worry about that too much. Now, it probably is a little bit difficult to do on the stock radio setup, but overall the sound quality is really pretty good. It's not like you're not gonna use it if you're an audiophile. Like, it sounds good. Overall drivability of this car is actually really good. Now, for being an SUV, I don't feel like it's a super large SUV. In fact, I feel like I'm driving an actual car. It's nimble, it's quick, it's agile. Of course, there's more body roll and more force around corners because it is a slightly larger vehicle, but overall, parking, driving it in town, backing it up, it's almost just like driving a car would be. I can see out of my rear view mirror with an excellent view. The car turns pretty much on a dime. Now, I have noticed that if I'm making a U-turn somewhere, it does lack a little bit of turning radius when compared to a car, yet, you know, it's still pretty good. It's not as bad as some of those first SUVs were, but, you know, it is all-wheel drive, so it's still not as nimble as a car would be. Now, my Nissan Murano has a custom exhaust, so I'm not sure how true this holds to all of them, but when I'm just cruising, the interior is really quiet. Now, you can hear when I get on my car, the exhaust is really loud because it's missing that muffler that goes all the way at the back. So I'm just gonna cruise lightly and calmly so you can hear me, because I don't think that the OEM exhaust is loud at all. In fact, this car has a really quiet ride with minimal wind and tire noise. I like how sealed up. Are you guys okay? Oh my goodness. Took quite a fall there, I'm afraid. As I was saying, overall, I like how quiet of a ride this car gives you. When you're in the cab here, you really are in your own world. The AC blows exceptionally cold. Now, these are the style of vents that I do have a little bit of a harder time angling just perfectly, but they're really overall not bad. The heater works well. It has dual climate control, and the user interface there is also really, really easy to use. Everything is accessible from the driver's seat here. I have cruise control on the steering wheel, European style setup, headlights, wipers, climate control and radios all right here. I can reach my drink super easily as well. So everything from the driver's perspective, even the passenger perspective, is super ultra uber comfortable. So if you're looking for that car that gives the driver control over everything and a personalized experience, and it's super comfortable to run and drive, which this car really is so comfortable to drive around, you might consider a Murano. Now, in terms of suspension on this car, it's actually really good. My Murano has 195,000 miles on it almost, and the suspension, even going through a little dip right there, really provides just a comfortable ride. Now, of course, the camera is shaking quite a bit because I'm on a gravel road about to transition onto pavement. But overall, I give the suspension a 10 on this car. It's really good. It's a little bit softer than you'd think the S-Line Murano would bring. So if you're wanting a really fast and a quick SUV, the Murano probably is not your car. It has plenty of power though. If you're ever climbing a hill, if you're going to overtake someone, this car doesn't lack anything, to be honest. I'm very, very pleased with the 265 horsepower that this Transverse V6 puts out. However, the reason that this car is not quick, its downfall, is the CVT Xtronic transmission from Nissan. Yes, the dreaded Nissan CVT transmission that everyone used to talk about and say how unreliable they were. Now, I do agree that the downfall of this car in terms of reliability is the CVT. I'll talk about that later. But the CVT is what gives this Murano and Nissan's whole lineup of cars the super ultra luxury feeling to them. Now, Nissan wants these cars to be that daily driver, that car that you take out on a road trip, that you can enjoy with your family, and that you ride in a lap of luxury and smoothness. Now, these CVTs, they stand for continuously variable transmission. They don't shift. There's no hard clunks, there's no slams, they don't shift up or down. They simply use a belt to connect the engine to the drivetrain or the transmission of this car, and as you put your foot down, put more power into it, that belt seamlessly transfers that power into the back wheels of this car, so you just accelerate. There's no real feeling to it. The car is just flawlessly smooth, which, is actually surprisingly good. I'm a car guy, so I do like to feel the shifts, but when I'm just driving and traveling and I'm not really in it for the driving experience, this is a really, really nice riding, a really, really nice, smooth driving car that I just love. It'll get up to any speed that you demand out of it, and it just runs. Coming to a stop here, nice and smooth. I'm gonna go ahead and do a harder acceleration here for you guys as I pull out. Now, you'll notice that as I put my foot down all the way to the floor, you don't see any shifts that are throwing me back into my seat. Instead, the car revs up to about 5,000, and I'm already at 80 miles an hour, just like that. It's kind of a weird and a surreal feeling, and as I brake here, you notice that nothing's really throwing me forward either. Now, Nissan really did want to go after this smooth riding and smooth effect in their cars, and to be totally honest, I think they've completely achieved that. This is a really good riding and a really good driving car with plenty of power. But if you're looking for a sporty and a fast SUV, the Murano is probably not it. Now, in terms of handling, like I did mention, the cornering, there will be a little bit of body rolls because it's an SUV, but it feels pretty good. I wouldn't say that it's sporty because the suspension is somewhat soft, so you do get a little bit of movement there. But, you know, the car overall feels really very stable, and it doesn't really jerk or bounce around, and even going over bumps on corners feel just really, really smooth. Before I get out of the car, I do want to talk a little bit about the all-wheel drive system that's in here. Now, I don't like it as well as I like Subaru's all-wheel drive, or especially Audi's Quattro system, which is still probably rated #1 in the entire world. I haven't had any experience with the Evo or Mitsubishi system, but the all-wheel drive system in here, it works. It's all-wheel drive. It's better than not having it. It's a decent vehicle for wintertime, but it wouldn't be my first pick for like a skiing vehicle or something. If that's what you're buying this for, was just a skiing vehicle, I would take note that, in my opinion personally, I find the all-wheel drive system lacking just a little bit, especially on slick roads and in snow. It seems like it's really, really easy to get the tires to spin in this car. And if you get one tire spinning, none of the other tires will drive or move the car. It lets it spin out. Now, there is an all-wheel drive lock button on this car, which I have used one time when loading this car on a trailer. And so perhaps that locks the differential and makes all of the tires spin at the same speed. I haven't read about it. I haven't done any research on it. But if you are looking for a car that's really good in the winter time, you're looking for a winter driver, yes, the Murano is high off the ground. Yes, it will give you clearance. You'll never scrape the bottom of this car, especially if you get the S with the 18-inch tires. We about got it stuck several different times, and it is pretty slidey and slick. Now, that could be due to the fact that the tires I have on here are summer road tires, and they're not at all meant for winter driving, but I wasn't going to put any on for the 2 months of winter that we drove in. But I do think that some of that has to do with the all-wheel drive system in this car. So if you are considering a Murano as your winter driver primarily, you may want to do more research into that all-wheel drive system, and perhaps I will do more research into that and do a separate video on it. But if you're looking for a great all-season driver, especially one that gets really good gas mileage, has good power, has plenty of space, and is like uber ultra comfortable to drive around, then I think the Murano would be a great choice for that. Something else we need to talk about before ending this video would be reliability. How is the Murano in terms of reliability? Now, looking at all generations of the Murano, from when they come out to the current generation, maybe I don't want to go that far into the current generation because I don't know much about them past like 2016. They really are a super good, super reliable car. Now, mine has 195,000 miles on it almost, and it really has been amazing. I don't know the past history to the car, but I do know that it sat at one point for a longer period of time. That could be due to some major repair that had to happen on the car. I do know that the catalytic converter's burnt out on this car, hence the reason it has kind of a cheap custom exhaust on it. And I do know that the only flaw to these cars really mechanically is the CVT transmission. Sometimes these transmissions would simply give up, go out, decide they don't want to work anymore, and they'll do that without warning, leaving you completely stranded wherever you are, and with a $3,000 to $4,000 to $5,000 repair bill to put a new transmission into it. So would I be wary of buying one of these cars? You know, probably not. If it's got extremely low miles on it, you may look into the last time the transmission was serviced. If it's got, pretty high miles or really high miles on it, and like my car or above, then you also may consider seeing when this transmission was last serviced or replaced. because that CVT is a slight worry of mine. My car, with the amount of miles it has, is starting to go into gear a little bit slower. I don't really notice any shaking or shuddering yet with the transmission, which is also a problem, which is a good thing, I guess. But I drive this car around as a work vehicle, and I accept that one of these days it may just quit moving. So if this was going to be my primary driver, my long road tripper with my family, I'd probably look for a Murano with, 140,000 miles, because typically when these transmissions go out, it's about 120,000 miles. And I do know that Nissan had an extended warranty on these cars for quite a while, but I'll imagine that any of them now are out of that warranty. So either look for a really low mile Murano that is not going to have problems with the CVT for a long time, or look for one that it probably already did have problems and then it's had repaired, and if they have service records for it, great. And that's it, guys. That's the review of my 2009 Nissan Murano S. If you want to see more of this car or any specific videos on this car, drop a comment below. Let me know and I will try to accommodate you on that. We use this car a ton for work. It's always being driven. It's constantly being driven. And so far I'm very pleased with the reliability of this car. I love how it drives, and I love how luxurious it feels while being such a basic and a simple car with, of course, plenty of storage, more room than you will ever need and use. So in terms of, is this car any good in 2021? Yes, it is. Go ahead, pick one up today if you are considering it. I really don't think you will be disappointed in any of those areas that you are disappointed. It makes up for it in other areas that features other SUVs don't have. Don't take my word entirely for it. Go out, test drive them first, but I do think that this SUV is a really good option for an all-season driver, whether that's commuting or road tripping, and it does come with Nissan reliability. And with that said, go ahead and hit the big red button below so that you're tuned into the channel for future uploads and videos. Also follow me on the Insta-Thing link down below so that you don't miss out on sneak peeks of upcoming builds, projects, or anything automotive that's going on in my life at the moment. Get out, enjoy your automotive ownership, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.